Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, here along with my very special guest. He is the author of a new book, a novel called, it's a Brian Youngman novel called Tequila. Tim Reuben is my guest. Tim, welcome to the program. It's a pleasure to have you here to discuss not only your novel, but also the work that you do in the world that we live in.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And let me just add to the title, because their subtitle is A Story of Success, Love, and Violence. So that gives you a bit of a sense as to what my book is about.
Indeed. If we can start here, I guess. What is it that inspired you to write this novel? And I guess I should preface it by saying, is this your first novel or work of fiction?
Well, it is my first work of fiction, my first novel. I am a lawyer, and I have been practicing here in Los Angeles for over 45 years. And as a lawyer, I have seen so many different stories and personalities, so many people and circumstances, some of them pretty crazy and some pretty fascinating. And what inspired me really is the work that I've spent all my life doing. I thought I could try to merge ideas and scenarios and personalities and people and try and create a complete work of fiction, but pretty much all of it has a root in some case or matter that I've had in the past. And that is why I was inspired to write this book. Of course, I always wanted to do some creative writing, but life gets in the way. I had to work as a lawyer. I had to be a parent of 4 kids. So I was too busy to get to writing. Now, as an empty nester, I have the time. So that is why I finally got down to the creative writing that I've been saving up.
Well, I know that it is said that pretty much everybody has a story to tell, whether it be fiction or true story.
That's
And
so true. That is so true.
so you've taken, and this is what I love about works like yours. You've taken, shall we say, because it is part of your history, you've taken historical events slash experiences and woven a fictional tale around them. Is that the best way to describe that?
Well, it's a very good way to describe it. The truth is that obviously we write from our experience, but I had the benefit uh, say 100 other stories, 100 other scenarios that people have talked about over the years. When you're a trial lawyer, which is what I am, you take depositions, you interview witnesses, and you try cases, and you meet jurors and judges and deal with opposing counsel. It's all the process of my career. In the process, I also learn their stories or their experiences, and that
Mm.
is the basis from which I drew Tequila. So the characters are not real, but they're inspired by different people that I've met along the way.
Is there one thing? Is there any kind? I know that usually in a novel, and I've read my share, science fiction in particular. I've always loved. There isn't usually a moral to the story, a message in there. Is this just a story that contains these elements of love and success and violence? Um, or is there also an underlying moral to the story, or is it just something fun to read?
Well, I sure hope it's something fun to read. The people who have read it have told me as much. But yes, there are certain moral points that are being made, multiple ones actually. The importance of family is a very important theme throughout the book. Loyalty to family is a significant idea. There is also the reality that the best people have flaws. Everyone is not perfect. And even characters who I hope you like very much in this book, they make some mistakes because everyone does. There's also a very evil character in the book. And one of the questions that has been asked of me is, do I believe that some people you just can't do anything about? They're always going to be bad. And I think that that's my belief. That is, there are certain people in life that, whatever the reason, whether it's DNA, whether it's their life experience or whatever, they tend to do bad things, and
Hmm.
there's nothing we can do about it. So it's really very interesting when you start trying to create a character. Uh, and one of the things I found while I'm creating characters is I start really liking them. And the fact that they have flaws in them makes me like them more. But anyway, back to the point, the theme is that people are flawed.
Hmm. You know, that is actually one of the aspects that we talk about a lot on this program in terms of just our life and the way we live it. My book Choices, for example, 5 Steps for Life, deals with the first step: make a choice. And that's what your characters do throughout, as you do in your life and so forth, is you make a choice. But there's more to it than that. And I actually have, it's not so much a sixth step that I may add, but it's more um, an element that a lot of people don't think about. And that is this: take responsibility for the choices you make. And
Oh,
a lot of people love to play the victim. Now, obviously, with violence in your story, you've got some victims, right? But
no,
even they,
absolutely.
but even they made choices that put them into the places where now they're dealing with what's going on. Talk to
Well,
us.
I think that's really true. The fact is that even people who don't make a choice, by not making a choice, are making a choice.
Very good.
And so that's very true. And one of the ideas that I think is in Tequila, and one that I believe in firmly, is this notion of power and responsibility. And the key is that power means that you need to take responsibility for what you do and what you choose. So I like your, is it going to be a seventh step? Is that our sixth step?
Well, I'm not sure if it's
Taking
really a step.
responsibility.
Yeah, it might be part. It might be step one B. Make a choice and then take responsibility for that choice.
Yes, recognize that you are responsible for your own conduct and your own decisions.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm hoping people will learn that. I think one of the things too in our workaday world is that there are a lot of people who like to play the victim, and that is I don't. There was a time. There was a time. Oh, I don't know. When I was, I think 19. Now, you don't know this, but our listeners probably do. I was born legally blind until I was at the age of
Oh my.
38, and I had a lens implant. And so, at the age of 19, I was headed for, I had decided to take a sabbatical from high school, so to speak. And so I did. And I'm living at home with my
Some
mother,
people
and she's,
call that dropping out, by the way. It's sabbatical
that's
from
true.
high school.
You are correct. The 60s aspect of it, yes. So my mother says, "Well, why don't you go get a job with one of the religious stations?" I says, "I don't want them forcing their ideas and thoughts, beliefs down my throat." Which, by the way, I did go work for a religious station, and it actually went the other way. But it was a wonderful experience. Anyway, I then said to my mother in this conversation, I says, "Look, I didn't label me legally blind. The state did. It's up. This is on them, not me." In other words, the victim. And it wasn't long after that that I realized, wait a minute, no, they may have, okay, they may have put that label on me because of my acuity, right? But what am I going to do with what I do have? And so I reached a point where I said, oh, it's not a disability, it's a perceived limitation. So no longer a victim. But in today's world, everybody wants to it's like the country is where it's at because of the fault of other countries. No, it's not. We did this all to ourselves. Oh no, but so and so. No, 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 no. We made the choices. We elected the people. We have the people in the various levels of government, from the city all the way up to the federal. In corporations, the people have made choices. They take responsibility and so forth. But there are no victims.
Well, I think
And
that's
you
an
told,
astute
please,
observation that you're making. The fact is that I believe that you're responsible for your choices and that you control you
hmm
and recognize that you control you. We see in the law lots of people play the victims and blame others for their own faults. And sometimes they're very successful, unfortunately, and they score some large financial result. And that is bad law because people should be both responsible for themselves, but also recognize they make their own choices, they make their own way, and what they can do for themselves is the most important thing in their lives. And we try to, I think in Tequila, the characters that you do like in Tequila,
hmm
my book, they make choices and they try to control what happens to them. And that is one of the strengths of character that I hope people appreciate in in these people. They're people to me, these characters, these fictional characters, recognizing that they have strength of character. They try to make choices. They try to control things. But of course, the world sometimes does get in the way, and then you have to maneuver around it.
yeah, this is true. This is true. Again, my whole premise for a lot of this is the aspect that, and you mentioned it as part of what's in the book, and that is dealing with family. And our program, Tell Me Your Story, deals with community. We're looking for those new ways of living because the old ways don't work. And there are those in different parts all over the country and around the world in little communities that are making a difference. They're living their lives. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between this aspect, not only of victimhood, but also of just, people just surviving, the old living from paycheck to paycheck, or maybe sadly you're living on the street and so forth. Um, but the difference between survival and thrival. Do you find yourself in that latter category these days after all that you've been through, all of the hard work that you've done and so forth, that you're now a person who is thriving where you are and what you're doing?
Well, I do. I count myself lucky that way, but I also know that I worked really hard all the way through college, law school, and then starting my own career, starting my own law firm. And now, at this point in my life, essentially starting a new career as an author. Uh, I enjoy the writing and I'm thriving with it. And in fact, I'm about two-thirds of the way or more through the prequel to Tequila, and I have the sequel on the blackboard. So I have planned for two more books, one of which I hope will be published next year, the prequel. And they'll both be Brian Youngman novels. Brian Youngman is the the character who is really the main character in each of both in Tequila and in the two other books that I'm working on. And he is a lawyer, not surprisingly. And so but he does a lot of other things as well. So he's kind of an interesting character. And I think thriving involves seeking new opportunities for yourself and enjoying the process of that. And that's essentially what I'm doing as an author right now. Look, I'm not a youngster. I'm more of a senior, and I've already had success in one career. And now I feel I'm thriving because I'm working on a new one. And I'd encourage anyone to do exactly what I'm doing because thriving does mean not just that you're doing something, but you're doing something that you believe in and you want to keep doing.
Hmm. So, as a lawyer, was that something that you believed in and you loved doing? It wasn't a job for you?
Well, yes, actually, it's funny that you put it that way. Um, it was certainly a job, but it was also something I desperately wanted to do. When I was a young man, I thought that I wanted to make arguments on big cases and big matters and help people get justice and that kind of thing. And, I had the opportunity to work in criminal defense, in prosecution, so both sides of the criminal side, as well as most of my career has been on the civil side, and I've been on all sides of that coin in civil law. So it's given me perspective and an opportunity to look at things in a lot of different ways. That's what I've tried to bring to the book
Hmm.
is a perspective and looking at things in lots of different ways because the characters are different characters and you hear what they think about this, which is going to be different from the other characters. And I think that's what's fun about life. So
Hmm.
yes, I wanted to be a lawyer and I've had a lot of fun doing it and I've worked really hard doing it. And I think that's how you thrive back to your earlier point.
Yeah. A story of success, love, and violence. It's called Tequila, a Brian Youngman novel by Tim Reuben here on Tell Me Your Story. Tim Reuben's my guest, and we're talking about his latest work, Tequila, which I venture that a lot of folks have been wanting in their program, their interviews, to use the song Tequila, but we're not going there. But it's fun to play with. You say you have another novel in the works. Now, first of all, I want to ask you. You say this is a Brian Youngman novel. Who is Brian Youngman?
Well, Brian Youngman is a lawyer. He starts as a prosecutor, uh, and he believes in law and order. He does very well in law school and has lots of opportunities to go to big firms and make big money. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to serve the public. And so he finds that the best way to do that initially is as a member of the district attorney's office in Los Angeles. And he tries cases and handles matters of that sort. And then he leaves the district attorney's office and sets up his own practice. And what he finds is that when he starts his own little law firm, that he's just a nobody, so he has to hang out a shingle and take whatever comes in the door,
Mm.
whatever it may be. And he handles a number of matters, hopefully non-criminal, but he ends up with one criminal defense case. That's in the prequel, excuse me. And then as he develops, he finds that he's going into family law, becomes a divorce lawyer. And as a divorce lawyer, of course, he feels he can help people deal with some of the hardest issues that they have in their life. That is splitting from a spouse, but also, importantly, addressing the needs of children. And one of the reasons he decides that this is what he wants to do is he feels he can help people address the best interests of their children, which sometimes they forget in divorce practice.
Mm.
And that is a strong motivation for him. The other motivations are just to help those people who are separating get more stability in their lives, and to the extent that they need to, get some help.
Yeah.
So Brian Youngman is a good guy. He also is athletic and handsome. He practices the art of judo, and that ends up being a valuable skill for him as he encounters some darker elements that come upon him as a result of his participation in various practices and his investigation. And so he does have that to help him with his own self-defense.
Mm.
That is who Brian Youngman is in a nutshell.
You as an attorney, and maybe this goes to Brian as well through osmosis and writing, you're writing about him. Pardon me. When I got into broadcasting at the tender age of 19, and then I decided to go to vocational school, I wanted to make a difference in the industry. Now, the bar was rather low back then, and it seems like it's gotten lower, but I'm still trying to make a difference. Is that part
Keep
of the motive?
trying, by the way. Keep
I'm
going.
not. Hey, I'm not going to quit. Not until there's no more breath in these lungs. Uh, is that something that you wanted to do too? Not that you are in the legislative aspects, but in terms of the law in administering it through your being a prosecutor and a defense attorney. Did you feel that maybe through what you were doing your part to maybe make the justice system better and so forth?
Well, yes, and also as a civil litigator, there's no question that there's some very important stuff that you can do as a civil litigator in terms of helping people with their rights, protecting their rights, stopping people from being destroyed financially. That's important. The other thing is that I've written over 50 articles on the law over the time period that I practiced, intending very much to try to shape certain important elements of the law and make them better. I
Hmm.
also have been I've been a what's called a temporary judge, so I sometimes will sit when a judge is sick or on vacation on the bench and rule on various kinds of cases that are before me. So I feel that those are important ways to contribute and maybe make a positive difference in our society and in the law. I think that's an important thing we should all do is somehow try to make the world a better place
That's
in
what.
whatever way we can. One little step, one little effort
Yeah.
makes a difference.
Well, that's what we're all about here, trying to make a difference. We're looking for those new ways of living because the old ways just don't work. All you have to do is look around you. They don't work. Most of them don't. It doesn't necessarily mean that we trash the whole system. I loved what one of my guests said. Build, and he used the word institutions, build new institutions that make the old ones obsolete, whether it's economic, educational, even religious, judicial, whatever area you want to go into. And so you don't just tear things down and then start over again, because then while this one system has been torn down, you don't have anything. And that's not to say that what you do have now is that great, but there's always room for improvement. I personally believe that you and I, as individuals, as human beings, we are perfect. And what I mean by that is from a biblical standpoint, where Jesus says, "Be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." Well, in the Old Testament, God makes reference to himself. I am that I am. So I came to the conclusion, well, if God is neither good nor bad, right or wrong, left or right, up or down, just is, then if we just be human beings, we're perfect from that standpoint, strictly from that standpoint. We were not created flawed, I guess is where I'm kind of going with that. We pick up that stuff as we grow up in this world, as we grow up as children and into teens and so forth. We pick up bad habits sometimes. But I'm
Well,
wondering
that's a
what,
very optimistic way of thinking and probably makes you a happier man.
a little bit, yes.
By the way, if you open Tequila and you'll take a look at the very first part of the book, you'll see a quote from the Bible.
Hmm.
Um, the quote is, and the thing is about the Bible, you're talking about I understand it's a religious book, but it is also a piece of literature.
Hmm.
And the thing about the Bible is it has stories. The stories are intended to teach and give direction. And of course, the passage that I have at the beginning of Tequila, as you may check if you've got the book in front of you,
I do.
is the story of Cain and Abel.
Yeah, Genesis 4, 2 through 8.
That's right. And it's a very relatively short passage.
Hmm.
Cain and Abel, the story of family strife, of family jealousy,
Yeah.
of families fighting with one another. I mean, it's as old as Genesis at the beginning. Think of it. That is the comment very often about families is that there's no such thing as a normal family. Every family has their own idiosyncrasies and unique elements and issues. And that is the nature of family, which is part of what I explore in the book, which is why I use the quote from Genesis at the very beginning of it,
Yeah.
because the issues of family debates or problems, they're all the way back.
Yeah.
they they started way back when, so it shouldn't be any
Absolutely.
surprise that they're still around. And
Exactly.
that is a theme that goes throughout the book because in the story of Tequila, it's a family saga. It's a story of struggles.
Yeah.
And some people have described it to me as there's a popular show called Succession that was on television.
Ah,
And
yes. Uh-huh.
they say Succession meets the Mexican mafia. So I don't know if that's quite what tequila is, but that gives you a little bit of a flavor because, of course, Succession is a story of a family
Yeah.
and family struggles, shall we say. Uh,
Hmm.
Tequila is a story of family and family struggles.
Yeah.
Struggles that, as I say, were as common as back in the very beginning of the Bible.
Yeah. Well, I know that with two of my siblings, my eldest sister, who has since passed away, she and I had this wonderful conversation. I call it wonderful, uh, but it was at the wrong place and at the wrong time. It was in my mother's kitchen, Thanksgiving morning or early afternoon. My mother was cooking, and we were having this, we'll call it this religious conversation, where she was challenging my own personal salvation. To
Mm.
which I responded to her. I said, "Look, my beliefs of yesterday are not my beliefs of today, are not my beliefs of tomorrow, because I'm still alive. I'm still experiencing. I'm meeting people. I'm interviewing people. I'm reading. There's all of this stuff going on in my life. And I use the term, I'm still evolving, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I don't have the answers. I have beliefs. I don't know that there's an afterlife. I believe there is because from my logical brain that I've been given, it doesn't make any sense that after this life there's lights out. Now, if there are, I'm never going to know. but it just doesn't make sense to me that we go into nothingness after all that we've done, after all we've experienced, all the contemplation we've done, maybe about the afterlife, maybe about us being spiritual beings, having a human experience, all of those aspects. I'm wondering if you've had time during your legal career, even beyond, to contemplate those aspects, those big questions of who am I, why am I here, where am I going, those kinds of things that help to give you, shall we say, peace of mind or maybe some level of contentment, knowing that I'm on the right path, I'm living my life's purpose.
Well, I think that we always ask those questions if we're paying attention. I think that those are the kinds of questions I've been asking myself since I was a teenager and continue. And you're absolutely correct that as we grow and experience, we develop. I'm not talking about maturity, I'm talking about growth,
Hmm.
looking at things from a different point of view. There's no debate that if I talked to myself of mid 20s today, we disagree. I would disagree with myself.
Yeah.
And so you experienced a little bit of that as a parent, by the way. I have, as I say, four kids, and now I'm also a grandparent. Hooray for that. And I have to say that as I see my own kids go through stages that I have been gone through at different points, and they're articulating some of the thoughts that I had, oh yes, when I was, say, 30, except now I look at things from a very different point of view. And so I think that the evolution of your mind and your personality is important. You should always be growing, always be questioning. And whereas I was sure that I was right about most things when I was 30, now that I'm much older, I realize I'm not sure about most things. A lot of things are pretty unclear, and you need to be more careful when you make judgments about what's going on because there's always another side of the story, another way of looking at things.
Mm.
And keeping that open mind is important. And
Yeah.
that's my thought. So as to the afterlife, I sure hope you're right. That's what I would say.
I had a programmer at the religious station I worked for. I was there 15 years during the height of televangelism, but he was a local priest. Well, he wasn't a minister. He was just a layperson who questioned things, who always liked to kind of have conversations, not debates, but conversations. And one of the things he left me with, his name was Clyde Freeman. And he only dealt with "Thus saith the Lord" scripture, which I thought was rather interesting. But anyway, the phrase that he left me with, or the quote that he left me with, was, "My mind is closed to the point that it remains open." And another phrase that was given to me, a quote by a friend of mine, when I was kind of feeling a little bit too big for my britches, and I was 21 at the time. You talk about, telling your younger self, "Hey, wait a minute." They said this to me, and I've kept this ever since. "It is better to begin in doubt and end in certainty than to begin in certainty and end in doubt." And I think that that is profound. And I think it was shortly after that somebody did say to me, and I've pondered it all these years. I'm 65 now and still ponder this phrase. They said when I was also 21, "Richard, you are wise beyond your years." And they weren't being facetious. But I thought, okay, well, that's very nice, but am I going to be able to stay wise beyond my years as I get older? Will I still be wiser than 25, 35, 40, and so forth? And the conclusion I came to is, first of all, it doesn't really matter what the level is. They were being very kind, and I appreciated that. But I'm just a curious individual, and and you are too. Apparently, you are very curious about the world you live in. By the way, congratulations on your grandfatherhood. I have no kids. I have animals. I have cats right now, and we're actually moving. Looks like we're moving to Lake Arrowhead here in California, and we're going to get a dog. And these three cats are going to have the run of 1,400 square feet, 2-story house. It's going to be wild, but we're really looking forward to it.
Well,
I'm
that's very
curious.
exciting.
Yep.
I think that's an important change in life, and
Yep.
I wish you good luck. I have two dogs.
Ah.
My dogs are big dogs. Lola is 120 pounds,
Oh.
and so she's like a bear. And then, of course, Snoopy, he's 80 pounds. And he is like we think he needs sometimes to have some kind of sedative because he is so hyper. And so I walk them every morning for 2.5 miles with my wife usually, and we walk up in the hills in Brentwood, and so it's a real walk. It's not
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
And so when you get your dog and you are in Lake Arrowhead, I encourage you to enjoy the walks with the dog. It makes a difference every morning. It's a great way to start your day and feel good about it. It's healthy too, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful up there with all the woods, etc. So
Yeah.
you'll have a wonderful new experience, and it'll continue this process that you talked about, which is the growth, the development, and looking at things from a
Yeah.
different point of view. So good luck with that.
Well, thank you. My present wife and I have been through 7 dogs. When we moved here,
Seven.
well, when we got together, she had a pack of 4 Siberian Huskies, and they were basically a sled dog team. And then, of course, we acquired, 3 more, and we just laid to rest this past June our 100-pound Black King Shepherd Angus.
Oh,
What a treat! And I have videos on my website of him from 8 weeks old when we first got him, all the way through probably maybe the first year. And I cannot imagine. It's very difficult right now to be without a dog. We have the 3 kittens or cats right now. They're all siblings, which is kind of wonderful in a way. But
but you
animals in
can't
one's
walk.
life.
You can't walk the cats.
No, no, no. You can't. Well, you can try, but you've heard the phrase herding cats. It's like herding
Right.
cats. There you go. But animals in one's life seems to me to be as much as music in one's life. Those are
Hmm.
two elements. My parents not so didn't so much instill having pets per se, although my sister had a parakeet, we had gerbils or hamsters, that kind of thing, but never cats or dogs. Um, but
Well,
music always seemed to be a critical part. They introduced us to all different genres, never pushing anyone in particular. We certainly knew what kind of music they liked growing up when they did. My father was 91 when he passed away, born in 1931, as a matter of fact.
well,
And so I'm curious, from your standpoint, we already know, obviously, having animals in your life is a very important part of it. What about music? How does that soothe the savage breast in you?
well, I would probably tell you that the best experiences of my life involved music, no question. And I have the good fortune to I've had two daughters that had amazing voices and amazing musical talent. And so I would say that listening to them sing and act on stage, you have the mixed joy of the music itself, which is beautifully performed, and the pride and joy of seeing your own kid up there doing a great job. And so the combination of those two incredible things absolutely are my best experiences in life and ones that I always treasure and will remember. And in fact, the hard part is now to get that either of those girls to sing for me. So I'm stuck with singing myself. And so back to the grandparent thing, I go up to Northern California where my daughter and my grandson is, and I grab the guitar and I sing to him.
Hmm.
And I may not be the best singer in the world. I was on the Glee Club in college, but
Excellent.
but that was a long time ago. The fact is that I sing to that boy and he dances, and music enhances life. It enhances life. Now, listening to music when I walk, if I'm walking without my wife, it makes all the difference. Dancing to music, which we try to do. She's a good dancer. I just try to fudge it as much as I can. And just enjoying it, sitting back and relaxing. You've touched exactly an area that I am as supportive as you are in the notion that music enhances life. And there was a theory that certain music will make a difference in your health.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is. One of my kids said they were going to study it in school. I don't know if that ever really happened, but the notion that certain music will touch you internally in such a way and bring out positive feelings and vibes, and you'll get better. You'll feel better. And and I think that's probably there's some merit to it, though I have no science to back me up.
Well, I have a good friend who's a regular guest on this program, and we feature him in February on the 14th when he and his wife and his organization promote the World Sound Healing Day. And it's been going on for like 23, 24 years. His name is Jonathan Goldman. He lives down in San Diego, and he has books on humming. He has books on all different aspects of music and toning and vibration, and the list goes on. I even did a little research on what's called the Mozart effect. Now, it doesn't have anything to do with the health, although classical music, I love it. It's beautiful. But it was shown to, in one study, to help people who are studying in their educational aspects to retain things better when it came to the exams. Now, of course, once the music's turned off, it kind of dissipates. But I used to, when I was working for that station back in Phoenix, I would come home. I was working I think I was working like we worked 8-hour shifts back then in the radio business, and I would come home in the afternoon and I would crash on the couch. And I was a member of the Columbia Record or CD Club, classical division, if you will. And I still have all of those CDs. And I would throw one into the CD player, crash on the couch, fall asleep. It was great. It was great. So absolutely, it's fun. And now, did you and your family ever Christmas carol in the neighborhood?
Oh yeah, of
Uh,
course.
yeah,
Well,
my family
I
too.
mean, yeah, I mean, in the neighborhood where we live now, it would be very hard to get to people's houses.
Yeah.
We live up a hill and that kind of thing. So the old-fashioned notion of going house to house, Christmas caroling, no, but Christmas carols are great. I mean, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, all types of music evoke different things.
Hmm.
Talked about classical music. It stimulates the mind in ways that, say, hard rock doesn't. But then hard rock or might get you moving, get your body moving, and that's good for you too. It is. I'm a big believer, and this is, by the way, a philosophy that it can be summed in variety is the spice of life. That's true with music. It's true with people too.
Absolutely.
In tequila, there are a lot of different types of people.
Hmm.
I believe that variety is much more stimulating. I want to talk to different people.
Yeah.
I don't want to just talk to people who are exactly like me. How boring.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm interested in variety, whether it be music, uh, cuisine, if you're having different kinds of food, but people. And and of course, in Tequila, the book, we go to a lot of different places. And I think that's just fun. You know, there's Los Angeles and New York, and there's Houston, Texas, and Miami, Florida. But there's the Cayman Islands, and we go to Scotland, we go to London, we go to Paris. We are in lots of places in Mexico. So all this kind of moving around, even Jamaica, as I recall, even in tequila. So moving around is fun.
Yeah.
The variety is the spice. So you should, experience as much as you can and relish it.
Yeah. Sprinkle it everywhere and as much as you can. I buy it in the 55-gallon drum if I could. Fascinating stuff. Reuben, Tim Reuben is my guest. His book is Tequila, and you are listening to Tell Me Your Story. We are looking at the cover of your book, Tim Reuben, author of Tequila, and I love a story of success, love, and violence, but I especially like the shot glass, the skull. Um, I've seen the crystal skulls. They're not drinking, you don't drink out of them, but I've seen glasses that are shaped, the circular part that you hold onto is a skull. That is interesting, and I would venture that it probably ties more into the aspect of the violence part than it does the the success or the love part.
That's
Um,
true. Although, the skull is a symbol in certain cultures of a lot of things, but
yeah,
you're absolutely right. Um, and of course, if you remember, even Shakespeare had a great scene where Yorick is being talked to, and it's a skull that was discovered. So the skull is a kind of suggests the violence, and there is a lot of violence in Tequila. I'll be
yeah,
frank. I did put plenty in there, but it also relates to the fact that that's how people drink the
mm-hmm,
tequila. And
yeah,
maybe sometimes that brings out a certain personality,
yeah,
uh, that drinking of tequila
yeah,
in that process of becoming more and more inebriated. So there's a lot of symbolism intended in that. And also, I think that I think it has a lot of punch. It
yeah. Oh,
grabs
yeah.
your attention,
It
and
did mine.
we're very happy with how that came out, and I think it gives you a sense of that there's going to be action in this story, some
Hmm.
of which is going to be a little bit daunting
Yeah.
and violent.
By the way, is it available in Audible?
Yeah, actually, it will be. I actually have heard the whole thing done by, fortunately, an actor. I did not do it. I didn't do the voice because I'm not a talented enough actor to do the various accents. Because, as I say, the characters in there's obviously a Spanish accent, and there's a Texan accent, and there's a French accent, and there's a Scottish accent, and there are a lot of these different accents. So we did get a professional actor to do the story, and it's actually right there on my screen. I am supposed to get to it after this interview to make sure that I've heard it once again and that it is sounding terrific. It sounds really good right now.
Yeah.
And so they're doing the final little touches. So it will be available. The book is not available for purchase, whether it be ebook or through Audible or whatever, until October 14th. It can be pre-ordered, but it will be available in every form, including if you will just want to listen to it.
Right.
And listening to it, I mean, I listen to some books and they're fun to listen. Books are fun to listen to, especially if I use it when I'm driving or when I have a
Oh,
long
yeah.
wait in the car, as happens to all of us. And then I put that book on.
Yeah. Well, I'm a subscriber to Audible, and I've got a lot of books on there. And hopefully in October, I'll be able to add yours to the list. Is your book going to be mm, available in, and I'm going to use this generic term, in a visual format? You choose the outlet, but in a visual format?
You mean to be, but in effect, for Hollywood to do something with it, and we are looking into selling that story. It would fit a lot of kind of series programs.
Hmm.
It is, as I say, a family saga, and there are characters that go on. So we are looking to see whether or not someone's interested in taking it further. Of course, you
Yeah.
have to create the scripts and that kind of thing for that to happen, and uh, and that will take some effort because, as you may see, Tequila is not a short book.
No.
It's not something that you're going to read in 10 or 15 minutes. But actually, the people who have read it tell me it goes very fast. And that was my intention. It reads fast. I like action. I
Yeah.
like it to move. And I like uh, dialogue. And as you know, I like characters and changing places. And someone said to me, I'm really glad you make each chapter short. Uh, it's easier to read short chapters, and then sometimes I want to read the next chapter because I know it won't take too long to get through the next chapter.
Right.
So,
You feel
uh,
like you're making progress when they're short.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
you are. You're
Yeah.
because the action is changing. Every chapter is a different thing that's happening.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of that's my preferred form of writing. I don't actually like to read long chapters myself.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want I want us to move along. So
Well, I not only produce, but I narrate audiobooks. One of my favorites that I did not read, but I had the author. She came into town, into Santa Barbara, for a Saturday, and we actually recorded it in one day. We took 2 hours, did a recording, broke for lunch, did the other 2 hours. We were done. It's a children's book called Ghost Girl in Car Number Nine, and I added music transitions between the chapters, sound effects in different places, not everywhere, but in most places, because I wanted to leave something up to the imagination of the listener. And it was like listening to grandma reading to the grandkids. It was so cool. And then, of course, I recorded my book, but you talk about short chapters, a 300-page book that I recorded for a gentleman here locally called Breakfast Ball. And 300 pages isn't really a lot. It has 62 chapters. So it moves along pretty good too. So it was fun with that because I felt like I was making progress in that regard. But
I would I would say I think we have over 50 chapters in Tequila.
yeah, yeah,
So
it's really something. And of course, my book's just almost like a pamphlet for the most part. But it was fun to write. Took me 20 years only because I procrastinated, and that was one of the choices that I made. Okay, to procrastinate. But I finally got down to it, and then recording it was also kind of fun as well. And I loved when I sent my mother. I sent her a copy of it after it was published. And in addition to her own critique, which I appreciated, and I actually did take some of her advice to heart, I actually did some of the things. But one of the things that she said to me, and I'm wondering if you've ever thought about your autobiography, she said, I learned things about you I always wanted to know. Because it is sort of part steps for making choices and also sort of my life and memoir of sorts. Not that it's a true one. So that was kind of cool. I learned things about you I always wanted to know. Have you thought, do you feel that you've lived enough years that if someone came to you and said, we'd like for you to write your memoirs, you would be able to do that? Or would that even be interesting to you?
well, honestly, I've certainly lived enough years, and that part is true. But the fact is that I would rather write fiction
Hmm.
than tell, quote, the story of my life. I don't have enough uh, uh, belief in that people would find it that interesting.
Hmm.
And you have to. I think that if I write a piece of fiction, people might find it interesting.
Hmm.
Writing the story of the lawyer who practices law. Well, okay. The only thing interesting, I suspect, for many of people would be some of the cases that I handled,
Hmm.
and because I'm synthesizing stuff from those matters and trying to write fiction, I'm getting sufficient satisfaction out of that. There's plenty of my life in Tequila, I guess I would
I,
say, but it's it's uh, it's changed, of
so
course.
people will get to know Tim Reuben a little bit through reading Tequila.
Well, of course, everyone tells me that Brian Youngman, the protagonist, is obviously has a lot to do with me,
Ah.
and I wish I was as good as he is. I'm old enough to be more realistic about my weaknesses, but Brian Youngman is he's not James Bond,
Hmm.
okay, but he's going in that direction of being a rather uh, capable guy in a tough situation, shall we say.
We're talking with Tim Reuben, his book Tequila. It is a story of success, love, and violence. And this is Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan along with Tim Reuben, and it's always fascinating to dive into the world of the author. One of the things you talked about taking perspective of things back earlier in the program, and one of the metaphors that I use is asking people who listen to the program, who watch the YouTube videos and so forth, to take a look at a particular event that maybe that concerns them. For me, it might be taking a look at this whole move and buying a house and so on and so forth. But that event is inside of a circle. And what we want you to do is to stand on all of the different points, or as many of the points as you can on that circle, looking inward at that event, to broaden your perspective on that event. And then you can walk away with, in my perspective, more awareness and knowledge of what was going on there, to be able to make your own assessment rather than what we tend to do. For example, there is a particular, I'm not even going to specify the disaster. It just happened 30 seconds ago, and I want to know everything about it. But all I can see are the pictures and hear the commentary of the people on the scene and make a conclusion based upon that. It only happened 30 seconds ago. Who is going to have any information on what happened? But we, specifically here in America, we have this knee jerk reaction to pass judgment on whatever it is. It could be religious, political, economic, educational, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, a school shooting, oh, we know what happened there. And one guy lost his entire business because he said he knew what happened and was wrong. In any event, my brother and I, he is younger than I, only by about, I think, 2 years. He worked for Disney and is already retired. I'm still working, but I don't have a problem with that. I love what I do. We had a conversation one night following my sister's memorial back in Phoenix. And as the conversation began, I kind of knew where he was coming from. And I said to myself, however this conversation ends, he is still your brother. He and I are on opposite ends of the political spectrum, which actually, if you think about it, brings us closer than most people might think if you bring those ends together in a circle. Hello? And so the one fascinating thing that came out of that conversation that night was he and I actually agreed upon three things that needed to be dealt with, issues that needed to be dealt with. We didn't necessarily agree on how, but that wasn't the important part. That we agreed on the fact that there were three things that we could agree upon, and that he is still my sibling, my brother, and I am so proud of him for what he's accomplished. He now lives half the year in Vietnam and half the year in the States because that's where he wants to live. So wonderful. Um, and I find that people right now are really not willing to listen. I listened to him. I heard what he was saying. I don't know if he listened to me and heard what I was saying, but it doesn't matter because I can only deal with my perspective of him and how
Well,
he got to where. Go ahead.
that's interesting because I am also a mediator. Now, a mediator is a different thing from a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Mediator tries to bring people together to resolve issues.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is that you see things from all angles. If you're
Right.
talking to one side and you're talking to the other side, you start to understand from a perspective point of view that, oh my goodness, there are ways to connect people together. They're not that different, even though they appear to be adverse. Uh, and the key is to see it from both sides. I
Yeah.
always try, as a mediator, to understand the side that I'm talking to and look at their point of view, and then You move to the other side and look at their point of view, and you are quite successful. In fact, part of what happens in the book Tequila is people who are adverse uh, start to come together and realize, oh, we have a common interest, and we should work together to achieve a particular goal. One of the characters who does that, who is my favorite character in the book, is named Maria. Perfect, fabulous woman. Really, in my view, the centerpiece of the book in so many ways. Just a spectacularly brilliant, successful businesswoman, mother, everything. And she has a perspective which is different in the book than, say, Brian Youngman's perspective on things. And when you start looking at things from different perspectives, suddenly you get a sense of the whole. And you described a scenario where you're in a circle and looking at all the points, which is the same idea. But if you only look at from one point of view, you're missing a huge piece of the story. And so I suppose that's what growth happens, hopefully, in one's life, is you realize the importance of looking at things from different points of view. And when you have a disagreement with someone, try to think of it, well, why is it, what is it from their point of view? Where are they coming from? And it helps you to find ways to connect. But you're right about today. We don't listen to each other, and maybe we don't look at each other's points of view as often as we ought to, as we see so many debates in our society. I've always had the view. I have people who are good friends from all political spectrums, the left, the right, the middle, etc. I think I could take a dozen of my friends, whole spectrum. We could sit down, we could probably solve every problem collectively, because as we would talk and understand the perspectives and the points of view and the thoughts of others, we could come to resolution. Of course, that's not what happens in Congress, is it?
No. Although I will give you a wonderful example of how it does work. In the early 90s, I was a Baha'i, a member of the Baha'i faith, for about a year and a half. And I would go to their firesides and so forth. And I would read the books and go to their gatherings and so forth. And one of the things they taught me about was their Council of Nine. And they have this Council of Nine at all of the different levels, right up to the International House of I think it's International House of Justice. It's also made up of 9 members of the faith. And the way you become a member of this Council of Nine, you don't campaign. People will vote for you after having experienced you in day-to-day life, there at the gatherings, at the firesides, and so on and so forth. And if you are elected to that position, you are a member of that body of 9. And basically the way that it works is someone comes to the council with an issue and they share it, and the council says, okay, we will take it under advisement. We'll give you a ruling or a decision, what have you. And as you, a member of the 9, put your ideas on the table, your idea isn't yours anymore. It now belongs to the collective, the 9. Now, you will then vote on which solution, or however you want to put it, for this person who came to you, which solution you're going to offer to this person. And if you are in the dissenting, 5-4 kind of thing, like in the Supreme Court, yes, you were in the dissenting side of the decision. However, you're a member of that body of 9, and you accept and are part of sharing that solution that you are now offering to the person who came to you. And it's not written in concrete. They will give it to that person and say, here you go. This is our ruling or our decision. Go ahead and use it. And if it doesn't work for you, come back and we'll revisit it.
Well, that sounds like a very idealistic
It is.
idea, a way of going about things. But I always say it fails to take into account human nature. I mean, we have biases, we
True.
have
We
egos, we
do.
have
Yeah.
all these things that are going on. And so you can put that on paper and it
Hmm.
sounds great,
Yeah.
but in practice, you have personalities.
Yeah.
And some of us are more aggressive, some of us are more insistent, some of us are the opposite and willing to accept whatever is presented to us. We all have both explicit and implicit biases that will impact us, and
Yeah.
some of us are ambitious and some of
Yeah.
us are not.
Yeah.
So uh, it, it's a great construct,
Yeah.
but I think it doesn't necessarily sound like it would work with the people I know.
No, I'm with you there. I'm with you there, and I will tell you, I wish I had been able to sit in on some of those council meetings just to see what was happening. I remember too about 5 months, 6 months after after the COVID 19. That's right, COVID-19,
Yeah.
and the lockdown. I started hearing people saying all kinds of different things about how they're usurping my First Amendment rights and so on and so on and so on. And the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, I understand that you think that they are usurping your First Amendment rights, but see, I have the same rights as you do, and I don't see it that way. I'm exercising my First Amendment rights by washing up, masking up, and stepping back, as I phrased it. But then there was another part that I threw into the mix. I says, our founding documents at the beginning, it says um, to promote we the people, to promote the general welfare, all right, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Who's our posterity? Our children, our grandchildren. So how do you, and this is not a rhetorical question, this is a legitimate question to folks who feel that their rights are being usurped. How do you balance those two? I understand you have every right to take the position you are, and I defend your right to take that position. How do you balance that against preserving our posterity?
Well, first of all, let me just say that First Amendment rights are often mischaracterized because the First Amendment is really to limit the government. Uh,
Yes, yes,
it's
thank you.
about limiting the government.
Yeah,
What you're really talking about is so-called free speech.
yeah.
That is, I get to say what I want to say. But wait a second. No, no, you don't. No, you don't. Don't think that there are not consequences.
Thank you.
There are consequences to what you say. If you're impolite, someone's going to be offended.
Hmm.
If you're mean-spirited, someone's going to be hurt. And the old notion that your rights they end at the start of my nose.
Right.
In other words, you may have the ability to say something that you believe,
Hmm.
but that doesn't mean that you're not responsible for what you've just said.
Thank you.
And so this notion that people say, "Oh, I get to talk, I get to have free speech," nonsense. No, you don't. Not without consequences. And
Hmm.
if you say the wrong things to the wrong people, there's going to be a serious
Yeah.
backlash, and you're not going to get away with it. And
Right.
don't tell me that you had some free speech right to offend people. On the other hand, it is important to allow people to express points of view
Hmm.
and not be bothered
Yeah.
by it because it's a point of view, and
Yeah.
I change my point of view. I mean, I can tell you that my wife's point of view is sometimes very different from mine, but hopefully we talk about it and come to a consensus.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's the
Yeah.
good way to do it.
Yeah. And
Uh,
not to put too fine a point on it, I did some research on the First Amendment, especially regarding free speech. And it turns out the free speech only has to do with the government. If you've got, we made a comment about Congress just a little while ago. Well, we have the right to say that according to the First Amendment. But if you're not dealing with government or politics, what have you, it doesn't cover that. And then, of course, what you have already stated about your responsibilities with what comes out of your mouth, is also well taken. So, but this goes back to trying to create a more cohesive community, whether it be a family, whether it be a neighborhood or a city or a state or a nation. We have that we do have the tools. Would you not agree to solve this problem, this issue, to meet this challenge of lack of communication, I'll call it. My friend Dr. Sky Steve Cates talks about there are four forms of conversation. One of them is debate, and one of them is dialogue, and that's what he wants is dialogue. And even he and I are on opposite sides of things, but we're on the same side when it comes to astronomy, space, aviation, and weather. I mean, I love those subjects, and we talk about those every Monday on our program. But do you feel that where you're coming from, I mean, my goodness, four kids and then grandkids, and you're creating your own little community there. Do you feel that you've been able to instill that kind of perspective when it comes to relating to others, whether it's within the family or without?
Well, I have come to the recognition in life that I can control me, but that's about it. I think that, I know you haven't had children, but I will tell you that I think parenting is a great education, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
It if you had ego, it takes away a lot of that ego. You recognize how fallible and how many mistakes you make and etc. And you sit there and say, okay, I'm going to make sure that my kid is this. Well, that kid is an independent person and will develop the way that person wants to develop, and you can't control it. You can control you. All we can do is try to persuade.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you persuade? You can persuade to some extent with logic,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have to persuade with understanding and love.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is that if I make a very logical point to you, but I say it in an unpleasant way and my tone is negative or
Mm-hmm.
too much attacking, I'm not going to persuade you of anything.
Right.
If I indicate to the contrary that I get your point of view and I suggest that I understand, maybe I can move you a little bit. So I guess the short answer is I think all we can do is try to persuade others in an understanding way
Mm-hmm.
to try to come together and do the right thing in any individual
Here,
circumstance.
here. A guest of mine was, we were having a conversation. I shared my perspective on what he was talking about. And he came back with, I says, well, yeah, okay, that's good. But think about this. And then he shared his perspective. And I pondered that for a couple of seconds. And I said, well, there goes another one of my straw huts up in flame. And I will burn them all to the ground if that's what it takes. Not to say that he was right and I was wrong, but that he showed me a different perspective. And I had to go back to that. It is better to begin in doubt than end in certainty, and end in certainty than begin in certainty and end in doubt. And I've really tried to live that way as much as I can. I do. I mean, we all do get dogmatic about some of the things that we believe and where we're at. But it, I guess the phrase is appropriate here. It is the bigger man who can step down off of his soapbox and say, let me consider that. Let me ponder that. I do a lot of that. I do a lot of pondering. And I've been pondering a lot of what you have been sharing with us here on the program, and this has been fascinating. Tim Reuben, my guest, the book Tequila, and it's going to be available October. What was the date again?
October 14th, you can get it on Amazon. Tequila, a story of success, love, and violence.
Excellent.
And you will be able to get it on Amazon, or actually, there are lots of ways you can do it. You can also go to Tim Reuben Inc. or Tim Reuben, excuse me, timreuben.com, not Tim Reuben Inc., timreuben.com,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be able to find both me and my access to how to purchase my book.
Excellent. And we will have that link on our website as well. We'll be linked to you on the podcast and videocast as well as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan. Tim Reuben's my guest, and his book Tequila is available for you coming up October 14th. It is a story of success, love, and violence. And we hope you'll get a copy of the Brian Youngman novel. It's the first in what apparently is going to be a series. We'll find out as time goes on. Tim, first of all, thank you. The conversation's been so interesting. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope we've interested people in getting a copy of your book where they will. I don't know, some way they'll learn more about who you are through the characters in your book as well. But thanks for being a part of what we're trying to do here.
Well, it's been a pleasure and a joy.
I do have three final questions I ask all of my guests. I'll ask those of you in a moment, but I want to thank you for listening to and watching. Tell me your story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and we're also on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. Please click subscribe and notification. And we also hope that you'll go to Amazon.com and get a copy of Choices 5 Steps for Life, as well as if you can leave us a tip, we have a big tip jar. It's called PayPal. And we have links on the homepage of richarddugan.com to both Amazon and PayPal. And finally, we ask that you take time during this, the decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice. And with all of that, we go to our final three questions. The first of those is, who is Tim Reuben?
Well, Tim Reuben is a lawyer, a father, an author, a husband. I graduated from Harvard College and Harvard Law School and started my practice here in Los Angeles as a litigator, and I've been a litigator for 45 years here, and now I'm a mediator and sometimes an arbitrator and a judge, and I play a little tennis and a little golf too. I walk my dogs regularly, and I love my family.
Hmm. What gets you up in the morning? I have a feeling I know, but please, what gets you up in the morning?
That's a good question. My dogs wake me up. That's for sure. And that's just real. They are interested in getting right to their walk,
That's right.
but they have to wait. And the other thing that gets me up is knowing that I'm going to have that great cup of coffee that I make for myself, grinding the beans.
Oh,
I think about that and I say, oh, I'm out of bed. I got to have that cup. So that plus the dogs is the answer to the question. Coffee and dogs.
well, the final question comes from a wonderful movie that I watched, and I love asking the question, what was your best day?
Wow, that's almost impossible to answer because anyone will tell you that when they had their kid, it was a great day, and I had four of them. So I probably have to answer the question that it would have to be my firstborn because that was the first experience of becoming a parent and recognizing that I'm not important anymore. I'm not that central anymore. Now I have an obligation and a job to take care of this little tyke, this infant who is totally helpless. And yet, that still was the best day,
Yeah.
the best moment, because it changed your perspective completely, changed mine, but it was just a feeling of love and affection that was extraordinary.
Mm.
And that feeling of love is not something that ever goes away.
Mm. Well, Tim, first of all, I guess maybe I'll have to look into having a family in my next life.
Next time.
Next time around. And second of all, You seem like a very optimistic, happy, not only loving, but loved person. And I love the fact that throughout this interview, for the most part, you have smiled that big grin of yours. And I love seeing that. It's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that and your story with us.
Well, it's been a pleasure, as I said. Very interesting conversation, and my best to all your listeners.
And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love Talal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life and being in mine. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.